Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Gulfstream Park West. Ron Nicoletti along with Acacia Courtney. It is Friday afternoon. We're starting today with a fast main track. Still not on the turf. We're going to give it one more day to the turf to dry up. We've had some rain over the last couple of days, but the main track is fast and a couple of nice races today.
Yeah, very few scratches actually across the card with some of those races taken off of the turf. But as Ron said, it is a fast track, so you don't have to worry about wet track handicapping today. But should be a fun day at Gulfstream Park West once again, and we're matching.
We're matching today. Red, and you sent me the email, said make sure you have red on. Not really, but it worked out that way. So let's,
you read my mind.
let's run through what we can offer you today as far as wagering is concerned. And in the first race today, we start with the Rolling Super High Five. Any race with 7 or more starters in it, we have the Rolling Super High Five. And no scratches in the first race, even though you mentioned taking off the turf this afternoon.
So we will begin that Super High Five in the first race, as well as a 50-cent early pick 5. Just 8 races on the card today. So race number 3 will kick off the 20-cent, Rainbow 6. Just about $5,500 in that pool. So we're slowly growing with the carryover.
Starting to grow, and by the weekend it'll be up there. You know, as the days progress, if they don't hit it, it gets big. And of course, we end the day. Now the last 5 races on the card will be that late 50-cent pick 5. And in case you will have ticket for that, along with the early pick 5. So our first race this afternoon, as I mentioned, 5 furlongs, originally scheduled for the turf to be run on the main track. These are maiden claiming fillies, 2-year-olds, $20,000. And please note the number 8 was entered for the main track only, is coming into this race, currently on the board at 15-1. And as we mentioned, you have an early pick 5 ticket.
I do. We'll give you a look at my ticket. Try to keep things affordable today. I just used 2 horses in the opener. Currently, all of the money going to a first-time starter for Monty Thomas, who actually won the opener yesterday. He does have Stormy Arabella on the outside. I like the second-time starter, Jubilant, to the rail for Leo Espora Jr. Second race today is today the day for Here Comes Sergio. I think we've all tried to get him home a couple times now, but looks like he just meets the right field. I will use the 2 Victor Barbosa Jr. runners, though, as well. Race number 3 is taken off the turf. I think that makes it a very tough race to handicap. Lots of horses with turf form, some very long-time maidens in there as well. So race number 3, I will just use Triple Sirius and Sunset Catch, who I think just might be the strongest horses in there. Fourth race, I will use 2 as well in Mr. Joshua and another Monty Thomas firster in Zip to Fly. And then I like Historical Tablet best, second off the bench in the 5th race, even though it's taken off the turf, and I'll back myself up with Nola Fashion.
Sounds like a pretty good ticket, and it's only $24. And once again, that starts in race number 1. So we'll start to look at this race. And boy, did I love the one horse who you put on top, Jubilant, when this was going to run on the turf. This one is a half-sister to the Sunshine Millions turf winner, Warmonger. Turning back to 5 furlongs, close to finish. I thought a useful third. That was behind a pair of next out winners, and that was actually 5.5 furlongs on the main track.
It was. I think the fact that this horse does have a race on the main track, I was really intrigued by her trying the turf as well, but I knew coming out of a monster key race, 3 next out winners, that you were going to go to this one as well. And she actually ran pretty solidly in that race. She was 3rd. That was when she was with Phil Gleaves. She's now in the barn of Leo Espora, as I mentioned. And actually, though the dam was 0 for 5 on the turf, she's produced some turf runners, but she was actually a pretty nice dirt runner. So there is some pedigree to suggest that this one should improve just second time out.
The number 3 horse in here, Rada Kiss, is dropping to this $20,000 level, returning to the main track after a slow start. Got bumped around in that race, finished 5th. That was on the turf last time out. But if you look a couple of starts back, she really showed a lot of speed on that off track that afternoon. But I think she can translate that to the main track today, and she might turn out to be part of the pace scenario in there.
Certainly could be, and that is the biggest question, I think, in this opening race. Plus the barn, Jorge Delgado had a win yesterday with Wiggle It, Jiggle It. It was a thoroughbred version of that horse, first-time starter. But maybe a first-time starter is the way to go in here. The 7, Stormy Arabella, actually does have some quality siblings. In fact, a grade 1 winner in the family as well. First time starter, you never know, but a good barn for sure.
Always, we mention this over and over again. Always watch the board when you're dealing some first time starters and you're starting like the early pick 5. You watch the board, and as you see, really early in the wagering, at about 53 minutes or so to the first race, Stormy Arabella taking all the early money. So always something to watch. I got it on the ticket for all the reasons you mentioned in there. With that said, we'll flip the page now and go to race number 2. And this is a 7 furlong sprint. It's a maiden claimer for 2-year-olds, $12,500. And you mentioned when you were talking about your early pick 5, Here comes Sergio.
Here he comes again. Yeah, this 2-year-old, he's had 4 starts, so he hasn't really had that many career starts, but he is a horse that's a little bit hard to handle in the afternoons, but now he has some more experience under his belt for Joe Orsino, and I thought last time out was probably his strongest race to date at a bigger price. He'll probably be a short price today given his experience, but it looks like they've just been trying to find the right spot for him.
And I think the stretch out to 7 furlongs is going to help. Here comes Sergio this afternoon. Now, we're in agreement with our exactor in here. We both have the number 2 Zionsville in second. This one is dropping to this level on the main track. He broke poorly, and he never really got on track when facing $25,000 maidens in its career debut on the turf. I want to show you a stat with Victor Barboza Jr. with horses going from turf to dirt in the maiden claiming ranks. He's 8 for 18, 44%, 56% in the money with a positive return of investment. And we're not really telling you a lot here because Victor Barboza Jr. is just having a fantastic summer, spring, and now fall here at Gulfstream Park West and, of course, over at Gulfstream Park.
Yeah, he really did, of course, notching the Gulfstream Park Summer Training title, but just seemed like everything that he was sending out was running, even moves that weren't necessarily moves we had thought and associated the barn with. Now that stat actually does apply to both of his runners in here, including the 2 Zionsville and the 6 Grand Godspeed. I, like you, did prefer Zionsville a little bit more. You can see the short comment was that he was fractious last time out, and he did break badly. I look back at my notes. He got very warm before the race, but he's a very sizable horse, maybe now with some experience under his belt. And sometimes you see horses that just are a little bit of a heavier build, just don't really handle the turf as well as the dirt.
Well, number 3, Jackism, I just threw on the ticket here, is a gelded son of imperialism. What I liked, he shows 9 morning workouts in preparation for this assignment. He's a freshman, and I think you got to start looking for first-time starters in a race that where here comes Sergio. You really can't back him 100%, so maybe you throw a first-time starter on there.
That's absolutely a good tactic, and in fact, the dam did win at 2, so there is some precocity on the bottom side.
We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, I'll show you my Rainbow 6 ticket today at beautiful Gulfstream Park West.
At ExpressBet, we celebrate the champions that make horse racing great. That's why we provide more ways to bet from more places than ever. We've built an entire family of brands to give players more of the rewards they deserve, give bettors the information they need to win, and provide a community for horse bettors. Because the best way to support the champions of horse racing is to champion horse racing. ExpressBet, we are racing.
Coming down to the finish with Fort Lauderdale to catch him. They're not going to catch him. Fort Lauderdale, the winner. He went clear of the start, and he's coming home, turning handspring. Fort Lauderdale, brilliant in the statement master. What a thriller in the British Cup Classic. Fort Lauderdale gets deep, nose and nose to the wire. Fort Lauderdale has won it.
Welcome back to Gulfstream Park West, Ron and Acacia. And the third race this afternoon was originally scheduled for the turf. Now to be run at 1 mile and 1/16 on the fast main track. These are maiden claimers, 3-year-olds and up, and they run for a $10,000 tag. Lost a lot of speed in here with the number 2, Dino Dude. But Rainbow 6 starts now, and I'll show you my ticket, and you're going to see what I thought of this race right here. I went 4 deep, 4, 5, 6, and 7. It was so hard to figure this race out when it was moved from the turf to the dirt. Not only that, I thought the controlling speed was Dino Duden here, so I had to look around, and I wanted to go 4 deep. And then you see in race number 6, and I'm sure a lot of people this afternoon are going to be singling the number 2 Assertive as a half-sister to a Grade 1 winner, Street Fancy, debuting here at Gulfstream Park West for Todd Fletcher.
I think that's my single as well, and I think if you look back to my early Pick 5 comments, I wrote lots of questions with this third race, so I absolutely agree with you. Now that it's off the turf, we were talking in the office, we just had a tough time with this one.
Well, you know, Sunset Catch is debuting locally after responding to a stretch out from 7.5 furlongs to 1 mile and 1/16. Ran good in that race. He came within the nose of exiting the maiden ranks. That was a good turf course last out, but we're guessing with the main track this afternoon.
We really are, and we'll show you this replay of the last race for this gelding, and wanted to show it, even though it is a turf race, this is going to be on the main track, but I wanted to show how well he ran in this race. He's kind of bottled up in the yellow cap, the number 4. This was under Michel Jaramillo this day. He will get Tyler Gaffalione up today, and along the rail, and just kind of waiting and waiting for room. He has to shift out, and it just keeps closing and drifting out a little bit. Unfortunately, though, just left with a little bit too much to do late, as he really was closing with some good energy there.
As soon as he got clear of horses, he flew to the finish line and just got beat. But Sunset Catch, sometimes, even though there's a surface switch, the best horse in the race can find a way to win, and that's why I kept the number 5 Sunset Catch on top of my ticket. I know you went with the horse Triple Series that we talked about in the office too. This one could be the speed.
That's my thinking here, and that's my concern with Sunset Catch. If he is a little bit far back, he's a horse that likes to make that closing run. I just don't know what he's going to close into today. You're right, though. He certainly does look to be the best horse in here. I know Triple Sirius is 0 for 28, but with Apprentice Abby Medina aboard, he has actually run on the dirt a few times before. Maybe he just runs out and can't be caught in here today.
And the same thing goes with the number 7 Seeking Fast, who's a late striding type, who's got to get that pace to run his best. He closed to hit the board in 3 consecutive races at the distance, albeit on the turf, which includes a 3rd place finish behind Sunset Catch last time out. We just showed you that race. I just don't see the speed to help this horse. You might be right with Triple Series in here. And if you possibly can, and you're going to single a horse like Todd Pletcher's a little later on, maybe take the old button in here.
Yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to that either. I think this is definitely a race you want some coverage in, and maybe a wild card horse from the rail. The number 1, Ring Says It All. Mirko Sana still looking for his first win, but the blinkers do go on. This is his 2nd start. The dam was a dirt sprinter, and the barn has gone very, very well for Yvonne Belsour.
Well, good luck with race number 3, and let's go to the 4th race this afternoon. This one is 6 furlongs, a maiden claimer, 3 and up, 20,000 down to $16,000. Number 6 is listed as a gelding, and this is where, with an 8-race card, the late pick 5 starts.
Yes, it does, and we'll show you my ticket. And as I said, I'm going to single Assertive for Todd Pletcher, just singling in that maiden race, a very nice race in the 7th for that Todd Pletcher horse, who's actually run well both on the dirt and on the turf up in New York too. I used some coverage in the 1st leg and the 4th race here. 5th race just going to be 2. My single will be in the 6th race, using 2 horses in the 7th. I think the 5 How About Them Pats for Kathleen O'Connell might be the one to beat. Hopefully likes the dirt, that first-time starter. In the 8th race, I will use 3, though I think A Square to Spare will probably be a very short price. We'll see if he can make it 2 in a row.
Yeah, I think in that last race, the scratch, a beauty of a day, really makes A Square to Spare look pretty good in that field. Now, we both, I don't know, I started it off with the number 5 horse in here, Mr. Joshua, who was really game in defeat.
He was, and we'll show that race. This was back on August 25th, and this was coming off of a huge layoff for this horse. He hadn't run since December of 2015. Came back in August of 2017. This was a sloppy track. He's the number 5. He's on the outside in the orange colors. Now, Mo Bourbon is the one on the inside of him, the number 7. And this horse comes back on the inside, and I had Mo Bourbon that day, so I was rooting for him. But I thought that Mr. Joshua ran huge. Now, does he relapse a little bit second off the layoff? That's the question in here, but he was very, very game.
Yeah, I actually wrote my analysis today. People who subscribe to the bounce theory might have some concerns, because that was a big performance after that long layoff. So, but I kept Mr. Joshua on top. Now, you did go with a horse I do not have on my ticket, and I want to hear about the number 6, Zip to Fly.
Well, this one's a first-time starter from Monty Thomas. He has a firster in the 1st as well, so hopefully a good day for this barn. But first-time starters on the dirt, he's 10 for 44, about 23% win over the past 5 years, and an ROI of more than $5. I thought, looking at this field, when some of the logical horses like Mr. Joshua, like Polished Steel, maybe have some questions about them, I'm just going to go for a first-time starter. And do note that this 4-year-old by City Zip is a gelding.
Not a bad theory at all in there. We did that earlier on in the races. I put a first-time starter. But I want to mention number 4, Polished Steel, who's dropping to this $20,000 level on the main track, turning back to a sprint distance. He stalked the pace and faded when facing 25 maidens going 7.5 furlongs on the Gulfstream turf. The trainer's Eric Guillot, and I wanted to see just what he does. It's not a move that he does very well, Eric Guillot, and I'm talking about going from turf to dirt with all starters. He's only 3 for 44, 7%. 34% in the money with only a 65-cent return of investment. It's not something he does all the time. And with this, just a cautionary stat. I put the horse on the ticket, but I had some concerns because of that reasoning.
And that's certainly fair, and that was kind of my thinking again with going for a firster. But what I do think is a positive for Polished Steel is if you look just at the dirt form, he actually debuted in Maiden Special Weight Company, and now he's running against Maiden 20, so it's significantly lesser competition than what he started against on the dirt. Plus, he does get Tyler Gaffleone.
Well, the horse I have some affinity for is the number 1, No Dinero, because it's usually how I am. This one making the third start of his current form cycle. He rallied on that sealed sloppy track to finish third behind Mr. Joshua last time out. Gary Bain will be atop the son of Lifestyle, a journeyman Gary Bain. So just a horse to use on maybe your superfecta ticket.
And he does have a lot of speed, might send from the inside.
He's been known to do that.
We'll try to get you some dinero today.
If that one wins, I will definitely have some dinero this afternoon. That horse that you are, your first-time starter, as we mentioned earlier, is a gelding.
Yes.
Starting his career as a gelding. Now, the 5th race this afternoon was originally scheduled for 5 furlongs on the grass. It's a turf race now, not on the turf. It's a claim of fillies and mares 3 and up, non-winners of 2, $20,000 and one scratch in here of number 5, My Third Eye. And Acacia and I sit right next to each other in the office, and I said, oh, no, they scratched my top pick. And she said, oh, mine too. So this race, another one you have to try and figure it out. Now, I use your horse on the ticket too, and that's Historical Tablet.
Well, I like this horse. I agree with you in Nola fashion. I thought that was probably the big horse on paper, given his record on the dirt. But I did take a little bit of a stab with Historical Tablet, who I was actually intrigued with on the turf as well. But second off the layoff is a very good move for Reed Nagel. And in fact, this filly by First Dude, the mare, both of the other siblings that she produced were dirt winners. This one actually started on synthetic up at Presque Isle and actually had a dirt race at Tampa in much tougher competition. Just thinking second time at the barn, second off the bench might improve.
Well, talking about the 7 Nola Fashion, his debuting locally after a pair of really frustrating second place finishes at the distance, includes that neck defeat on that sloppy track 2 starts back. Leo Gabriel Jr. keeps the status quo. He's got Luca Panici in the saddle. One of those horses, darn it, second again.
I know. Unfortunately, Nola Fashion, who I think she's a very talented filly, and this one actually by Old Fashioned out of a dirt winning mare. Her only wins were on the dirt. And as I said, Nola Fashion's record on the dirt is probably going to be key. She does have a win out of 6 starts, a win, a second and 2/3, actually a win on a wet track as well. Just unfortunately, those last couple of races got to take that next step forward.
I want to tell you about a horse in here, and that's the 3 Para Vivier. This one is hoping to bounce back on the fast track. You look at this horse's record on the fast track. 8 starts, 3 wins, a second and a third. He had a wide trip. It produced a 7th place finisher. That was on the turf. I'm going to put a line through that, and I'm looking down. I see Victor Barboza Jr. strong with the turf to dirt angle, has Edgar Zayas in the saddle. I think that's a lot to like with this race coming off the turf.
Yes, that's definitely a positive, and you look at those connections, and you have to absolutely take a second look. Now, I liked this filly last time out, and I got burned by her being very wide. I thought that she had actually really improved a lot on the turf and just didn't really show up last time. So.
I'm going to say you're not a forgiving sort of.
No, today. Maybe she will improve and be happy to be going on the dirt today. We'll see if she can compete with this competition.
Anything else before we turn the page?
I think that's it.
Well, we mentioned a horse that's going to carry a lot of extra weight this afternoon in race number 6. This is a 7 furlong sprint, maiden special weight, fillies and mares, 3-year-olds, and up. We do have a scratch in here of Magic Mischief and Assertive. Both of us singled it on our tickets. Mine on the Rainbow 6, Acacia on her late pick 5. Assertive, as I mentioned earlier today, half-sister to Grade 1 winner called Street Fancy.
Of course, Street Fancy was a dirt winner as well, a dirt horse. This one was a $150,000 daughter of Blame, of course, trained by Todd Fletcher out of a stakes-winning mare. Beautifully bred, adding the blinkers on. She's had 5 starts already. In fact, her last 2 races have been on the turf up at Saratoga and Belmont. Last time out, pretty bad race on the turf. They're going back to the dirt, which is actually where she started. And if you look back, she started right here at Gulfstream Park West and actually ran a pretty good race against Salty, who of course would go on to be a graded stakes winner.
Yeah, and I just thought Assertive, forget the turf, and you got to keep this one on the main track. Now, the number 1 horse who I have in second second, you have in third. Untruthful Sonnet is turning back to 7 furlongs today on the main track. After dueling throughout, finishing third and going around 2 turns on the Gulfstream turf, Armando de la Cerda, I want to show you a stat. Horse is going from turf to dirt. These are all maidens at all levels. He's 7 for 24, 29%, 63% in the money with a positive return of investment, $2.14. And I always like to see the positive return of investment. When you do a horse, you know, that gets a win percentage, you say, it's going to be $1, but it's actually a positive return of investment.
And you might get a little bit of a price on this filly because she has already been exposed in her last couple of starts against maiden claiming companies, so she is technically stepping back up to special weight. That being said, we did have a scratch, so it is just a 5-horse field now, but she does have to deal with the very tough Pletcher filly and Assertive. I landed on Doritza, who's kind of been knocking on the door in her last couple of starts. Edgar Zayas going to climb aboard today. Maybe he'll help her take the next step forward.
Yeah, I got this one on the ticket too, but it really looks like the race goes through the number 2, Assertive. Now, the 7th race this afternoon, 7 furlongs on the main track. Now, it was originally scheduled for 7.5 on the turf. It reverts back to a sprint at 7 furlongs. These are maiden claiming 2-year-olds. We're going to scratch the 2 in here and the number 4 horse. And how about them Pats? I think they won last night.
You know, they're on this pains me because I'm a Giants fan, but I had to pick this one too. Kathleen O'Connell, a first-time starter, and you see the barn and you say, well, this has got to be a horse that's going to be live on either surface. And in fact, the dam, she was not a turf runner. She was a dirt sprinter. That's where her 4 wins happened. So pedigree is there, and there's some precocity as well. She's half to graded stakes place Coco's Wildcat, who was 2 for 2 at the age of 2.
Yeah, Coco's Wildcat, I think, did better on the main track, if I remember correctly. So how about them Pats? A logical choice, and we mentioned this ad nauseum. Kathleen O'Connell is certainly one you have to look at, especially right here at Gulfstream Park West. Now, things got a little wild for me in here. I didn't know who to put in second, and I went to the 6 Bragg dude. He's eligible to show more. After stalking the pace, he finished 4th when facing this similar level of opposition, and that was going 7 furlongs across town at Gulfstream Park West.
That was a race taken off of the turf as well, also labeled as fast. It has been working on the Palm Meadows turf course. It looks like they were pretty keen to get this 2-year-old on the turf today. They'll have to wait for another day. His dirt form certainly is respectable. I just landed on the one Aristelis, who, like you with another horse earlier, I've been trying to get this horse home for a while. I do kind of prefer him on the turf, but ran just 7 days ago, in fact, on the slop. I think he did not like the sloppy track. Maybe the fast track will be okay.
And the 8-horse dropping down is the son of elusive quality. Drops to this 50 level, failing to show much in its 5.5 furlong debut. But that was against maiden special weight competition.
It was one of 2 in here for Antonio Sano. Has the inside and towards the outside, and Zomwil and Aristelis.
Well, let's go to race number 8 this afternoon. 6 furlongs claimers, fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and up. Non-winners of 3 races in lifetime or 3-year-olds, they run for $6,250. And scratch the number 5 horse in here, Beauty of a Day, who I really had some interest in running in this race.
Yeah, that one hurt. That one hurt. I had that horse on there too.
And we mentioned it certainly makes it look good for a square to spare.
It does, and this horse was impressive last time out. She's got quite a bit of early speed. She didn't have the lead last time out, though, and was flattered by the fact that the second-place finisher, Starship Reina, came back to win next time out. But this was a filly I was looking at her. She'd been running so well on the turf in the barn. Jenna Antonucci put her on the dirt last time. And I said, well, she started out on the dirt when she was with Jason Service, and I'm going to say he probably knows what he was doing. So it looks like the dirt is where she wants to be. That's where she'll be once again, and Edgar Zayas will stay.
I got the now horse angle with the number 8. That is Ribarino, trying to make it 3 in a row after following her $10,000 maiden score at 5.5 furlongs with a late driving score against non-winners of 2 lifetime at this very distance. So Marco Meneses going for the hat trick this afternoon. Hockey started off just a couple of days, so I used my hat trick name in there this week.
Perfect. Yeah, I mean, she's stepping up after the non-winners of 2. I think she's 10-1 on the morning line. You're probably not going to get with some of the scratches in here. And she's just been very good. In fact, has really done nothing wrong off of the layoff for Antonio Sano. I used the number 3, Rora Ima Dos. Also has some speed, but just has been in pretty good form recently.
And you look, she doesn't run that great on the wet track, but on the fast track, she's had 12 starts, 3 wins, a second and 3 thirds. So we got a fast main track this afternoon. And I threw the 9 in a long shot, and here Stephen got even, who could close to be 4th last time.
Got even.
Steph got even, excuse me, who closes to be could be fourth and make that late superfecta pay really nicely. So that is how basically we see the card today, Friday, first race post in just a little while, and we're going to turn it over to our track announcer, Pete Aiello.
Yes.
He's going to get the scratches. I couldn't remember Pete's name there for a second.
That's not good. We'll let Pete take it away, and we'll see you throughout the afternoon here at Gulfstream Park West.
Good luck, everybody.